So, back in the middle of part 5, one of the main characters, Fugo, decided to abandon the group because he was too scared to fight Diavolo. Now, a lot of people in the fan base like to consider this as a prick move by Fugo, and a character who was about to abandon the friends just like Fugo was Narachia, but however he did that whole Trisha's me speech, went on the boat, and never looked back. So, what would happen if Fugo came with the group? I'm just kidding, that video's already been covered. What would happen if something else happened, though? What if Narachia decided to stay behind with Fugo? And this is going to be one of my first videos where I actually cover an OVA with it, because I'm not only going to talk about part 5, but I'll also talk about a little bonus scenario. I'm going to talk about how Shameless Purple Haze would change with Fugo and Narachia being together. So, folks, get ready for this interesting video on what would happen if Fugo decided to abandon the group. I mean, he did like in the original. But what would happen if Narachia decided to abandon the group alongside Fugo? What if Fugo wasn't alone? So, the middle of part 5 goes the same, like the entire beginning half of the battles. But then around the middle, Narachia either doesn't go and decides that Fugo is right and that they shouldn't go. It's a fool's decision. Or Narachia decides to go, but Fugo, not wanting Narachia to die either, grabs onto Narachia's shoulder and basically tells him to stay. And Narachia would pitch a fit and then just abandon Fugo. He'd later come back to him, but I'll get to talking about them once we get to Shameless Purple Haze. But now, the group is only down with only a members of 4. Mista, Giorno, Abacchio, and Bruno. And I guess Trish could be 5. How does the next arc change? Clash and Talking Heads was a Narachia fight. Now we got no Narachia. Who's the fight going to? I would assume Mista or Bruno could take Narachia's spot there. I'd say Mista could probably replace him pretty well, just taking the spot of Narachia the whole time. The arc really wouldn't change much. Notorious B.I.G. really wouldn't change, but then we get to the big change, the first one, and that's during the Risotto fight with the Doppio. How would Risotto vs. Doppio go without Narachia? Well, if we're going with plot armor wise, there's a chance Diavolo could just tiny razor donut him, bam, it's over. But he never did it, and Risotto actually almost killed him. So, I think it would actually resolve in Risotto getting the kill. He kills Doppio / Diavolo and just leaves. Maybe Bruno and Abacchio decide to investigate to see about Risotto. But yeah, now they don't know that the boss is now already dead. What would change next without Diavolo being alive? Well, I mean, there's a lot of changes. For starters, who would become the boss of Passione? Either Chocolate and Secco or Risotto. And the whole thing with Polnareff could still happen. I still see him calling Bruno's group, like all that going the same. But the only thing is that Abacchio would not die. Or, if I'm being honest, Abacchio would still die because he was fated to die. And in this scenario, we're going to say that he encounters Risotto on that day. He accidentally sees Risotto. Risotto recognizes him, and vice versa. Summons a giant, like, pair of scissors, cuts Abacchio's throat or something. I don't know. He instantly kills Abacchio right there. All we know is that he wouldn't get Donut Club this time. Mista would probably actually bust into tears this time, because the only reason he did not was because Narachia was there and he wanted to look strong around him. Everything would just kind of go the same until we get to, like, the Green Day stuff. And what would Risotto do? Well, if he finds out about the arrow, he would go. But here's the thing. Polnareff doesn't know that Risotto is the antagonist. Diavolo is now dead because, well, he never turned into Doppio, and that would mean that Polnareff could actually trust Risotto. Risotto would have been given the power of Requiem, and he'd probably kill Giorno's group. But there is a chance that Giorno and his friends could do it. I feel like, how would Chocolata and Secca go as well? I think it'd go the same. But however, the whole thing with the Doppio stuff never happens. Maybe Risotto encounters Bruno, but before he could kill him, Polnareff sees him, and Polnareff and Risotto can fight. As for who wins, I could say Polnareff would win if that was the case, but there's a chance Risotto could. I don't know, it just depends on who gets the first attack. And I still think Silver Chariot Requiem happens. I think that whole arc would probably go the same. The only change is that Risotto's there. And I think Risotto could probably prevent Giorno from getting Requiem. All he needs to do is just use Metallica to cut off his hand. But then Giorno could probably use his life-giving ability, so I still think GR could happen. I don't know, there's many possibilities to look at it. The first scenario is that Risotto could win and conquers the world, or second scenario is Giorno wins and everything goes all hunky-dory. I'm going to say the Giorno thing happens, and because I've still wanted to cover the second half of the story. If Risotto did win, it wouldn't have much effects on the other stuff, like, for starters, Part 6, the whole universe resetting, unless Risotto had any knowledge of it. There'd be no way. And also, Part 7 and 8 wouldn't change, because they're not in the same universe, and even if they were, I haven't read those parts yet. But, anyway, those parts, like, that whole thing goes the same, Part 6 goes the same, and that's the end there. But now it is time to cover the other part of this video. How does Shameless Purple Haze change? What changes with the fact that now in this timeline that Narachia did not leave, he's with Fugo? Well, Narachia would actually, for starters, after getting into his argument with Fugo, like I stated earlier, Narachia would actually instead just return back a week or two later, because he wouldn't really have a house or anything. So, yeah, those two would live together, and they would be trying to find their own lifestyle to make money for themselves. Fugo would still do that whole, piano thing, but Narachia could probably get a different job, helping Fugo in this job. And I still think the whole thing with Shameless Purple Haze would actually come out of this. So at this point of the story, everything's kind of the same. Everything's honestly, like, the whole beginning of Shameless Purple Haze starts off, but with Narachia with Fugo. And everything kind of starts off the same. The only real changes is that, and when they go to meet Sheila E. and the others, side note, I don't even know the other one's name. I mean, I do, but I just can't pronounce them, because I, for the life of me, cannot pronounce a foreign language. If it was like, if I had a gun to my head and I had to try to pronounce at least multiple of them, I don't think I could pronounce it right. In fact, I'd probably butchered most of these pronunciations. So, make fun of me in the comments of how I pronounce some of these characters' names. But, yeah, everything kind of goes the same with, like, that part. As for other changes to the story, when they sail off and everything like that happens, I don't see nothing really changing, in my honest opinion. But, like, where would Narachia be in the whole thing? There's, like, 2 fights, if I remember. Fugo was in a fight, and then there was Sheila E's fight. I'd probably put him with Fugo or Sheila E there. Or it can be with that one guy, forgot his name, the card dude. Naranja wouldn't do much, though. All he would do is basically be a good little spy guy, using his stand to kind of sense out stuff, which Aerosmith has mainly been used to do. And it's Aerosmith's one of his top abilities, being able to sense stuff out from flying distance. So I think Naranja could actually use that ability to actually help out with the group here. But I don't really think Naranja would survive this. But there is another kind of dark scenario, and if Naranja is with Fugo and Sheila still dies, Naranja never gives Fugo that motivational speech of the whole Trish is me thing. When he was like, Trish is me! Trish is me! Everything like that. Because Naranja never gives that speech to Fugo. Purple Haze Distortion may never come out. And the only real other way I can see it is if Fugo, like, not Fugo, but Naranja and Sheila both die at the same time. Naranja, I don't really see there being any way for him to survive that. Plus, with the whole, like, Purple Haze Distortion, that was, like, the only way to beat him. So I think it could honestly go the same. And another reason I feel like Naruto would die is because he was always fated to die. Eh, but there is a chance that Naruto could live. Honestly, it just depends on you guys. Personally, I would have him survive, in my honest opinion. And everything would just go the same. If you're, like, wondering as far as, like, what would Part 6 change, like, let's say, hypothetically, Narancia and Fugo fled to America, what would change? Not really much. I could see Aerosmith helping with a good, like, their escape. Purple Haze could probably kill Poochie, I guess, but, like, honestly, nothing would really change. If you wanted to, like, know what future parts were to go, like, with Fugo and Narancia and 6, uh, I could answer in the description or comments. I can make a comment based off it, but, yeah, that's all I gotta say here. Uh, Thanks for watching. It's like this is gonna be the first case like scenario, like the first ever time I've ever covered an OVA styled video with it. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. If I ever decide to do more, maybe stuff that would connect to OVAs, I could try again. But like, yeah, this was actually a pretty fun video to come up with. Especially the fact that whenever people do talk about what ifs, they only really like when it comes to part 5 in particular about Fugo. A lot of people tend to talk about what if he came with the group, which while I admit is interesting all alone because of the original plans that Rocky had. It's always interesting on I've always found it more interesting on what would happen if Narancia didn't go with the group and stuck with Fugo, because they could change a lot more in my honest opinion. But yeah, that's my opinion on what I think would happen with the story. Uh, Tell me your thoughts in the comments below if you have any requests for future JoJo videos, or future videos for Danganronpa, or Naruto, or Death Note, or My Hero Academia, or Dragon Balls, or just about any other anime. Or you can actually talk some animes, and I can ask if I've watched them before. Then by all means, you can place them in the comments. I'll check them out if I've never seen them, and see if I would do what ifs on them. Thanks for watching. I'll see you when I get to my next video. Goodbye.